to Happy Soul and Happy Soul. This is like three shows. Happy Soul, First Question, and Straight Talk all together. All 88.3 shows. Still here with my colleague, my boy, my former boss, all these kind of things. Franz Richardson, who I've been on the campaign trail with since Jesus was a little boy. And we continue with our interviews to the phone, giving you guys all the information from our various candidates contesting the 2019 Part 2 parliamentary elections. And today we are joined once again. Yesterday we had Marvio and Rosalinda in here from the Party for Progress. Today we have the leader of the Party for Progress, Melissa MP Melissa Gumbs, and former MP, who's here with us for the first time since she joined the PFP, Ludmila Duncan. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Mike.
Good, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Melissa, if you don't mind, I will start with the former MP.
Of course.
I didn't. When you resigned, I didn't expect to see you back in the game so quickly.
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of thought we were going to go back to what you like more, this policy, executive government, and we're going to get to some other discussions. But here you are. You're back with the PFP. You're back with the PFP.
Yes.
And of course, I'm sure everybody asks you the general question: why the PFP? It is, to me, who know politics, who've been on the scene for a while, such a drastic from night and day. From the National Alliance to the PFP.
Yeah.
Why the PFP?
Well, first, let me say this, that, and just in case anybody didn't hear the story, I stepped back, said I needed to reflect. I didn't say I was retiring from politics, but I needed some time. In that time, though, I decided that I was going to move to the Netherlands with my family to pursue a PhD.
Right.
And then government fell, and I had to ask myself, can I walk away now and turn my back? No. And the only party that I could see myself with was the PFP. Now, why the PFP? So over the last 4 years in Parliament, we have had some very interesting times, but mostly aligned on a number of different things. One is telling the government, listen, you are actually making unethical decisions, and you need to put some proper policies in place so we can hold you accountable. That's one. Two, tell the people the truth of what's going on. We got so much different issues in this country, and you keep hiding. You're not being transparent. Tell the people the truth. So there was a number of different values that I stood on, that I see that this party is about. Melissa and I have always had a very good relationship.
That was obvious.
So this was a party. Yes. For the most, For the most part. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Well, well, first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome back. You was missed as an MP. I think your way of doing politics was even totally different than your father.
Yes.
There was night and day between you, and the way you did things was much appreciated. And for me, you know, like I've always said not to the leader, Miss Melissa Gumbs here, who me and her father has a very good relationship, but it's strained a little because since he got fired high in the air, he hold it against me. But hopefully one day we're gonna drink a cup of tea and drink something that's existing. Melissa and I put the water out to tell Chelo, my bad now. We need to fix this thing. That is not how we really live.
I'm sure he's listening.
But nevertheless, I think it's great to see someone like you. And I think you fit well with this political party. I'm not going to sit here and say not. I think you fit well. It's a group of young, brilliant Sint Maarteners who wants to achieve something for Sint Maarten. But nevertheless, for me, I would like to know what are the difference of the things that you want to achieve now with PFP that you would not be able to achieve with the National Alliance.
Oh, so you're going to the hard question first.
This is straight talk and
let's go because honestly, I live now by this theme, this concept, radical honesty, and it is the hardest thing to do, right? For us to be honest and radical at the same time, because you kind of have to look at yourself in the mirror. One of the things that I admire with PFP, that I have felt it even when I wasn't on the party, is that it's really a team, right? And communication is key. I would hear things from Melissa that I wasn't hearing, from the direct lines that I should have been hearing information from, right? So honestly, hey, listen, this is what's going on. I'm going to share all of the information with you so that we could make a decision together as a collective. There's another thing too that I have seen on the party. Listen, we are equals, right? There is a board, but there is also the team. Your voice matters. Whether you get 30 votes, whether you get 60 votes, 150 votes, you have a space to talk, to bring your opinion and to bring change, because we are in this together. It cannot be that one person or two or three persons are at the top of the food chain, even in a party, and they're the ones making the only decision. And if you disagree with them, it's a problem. And that is some of the things that I have seen and I have felt that I want to express, that on PFP, you have the Minister of Vlomi in there with the rest of the team, and there are discussions about what is happening in Vlomi that all of us need to take responsibility for and work towards. It's not, I in there and listen, I don't want them to do this, whether you're on the party or not. And that's one of the biggest things.
I just want to compliment you guys in the Ministry of Vlomi. I know it's not only the minister, but I think he has a very good supporting team. With Ray Peterson and all of them in there. I'll be honest with you, I think he has a very good team. They're doing an excellent job of information. That is key. I've always said of what is happening. So from that side, I must say kudos to the minister, Gumbs, and the team for the information that they're providing from that point.
And when he said a road is open, it actually did open. That's not quite. Is it deliberate? Because I noticed MP, it's a force of habit. It's a force of habit.
Come back.
MP Duncan and former Minister Miklos. I know they are the two last ones on the list. Is that like you given those who were there with you before stayed?
No, actually,
and then the last to come out.
It's a pretty
so. I don't know if that's deliberate.
No, well, deliberate in the sense of as a party we've always been committed to also being environmentally conscious. We had a lot of stuff left over from January. We shirts that are numbered and such. And I even told them, like, look, we're at a general election and we had nothing left. I would have been, able to play around and such. But I think Mila too, coming from that, you loving nature, loving being in nature. My goal has been, I don't ever want to see or come across a PFP shirt on a beach in a cleanup. It drives me nuts. And I think that if so we didn't have to print anything. I mean, we even had blank shirts left over that we then could have put, her name on and her number on. So that was our planning, in the sense of try to order so that you have some wiggle room or whatever. But we had stuff left over, and I said, that's where it's at. And I think Mila understood, Miklos understood, and that's how that worked out. So it wasn't a sense of how it usually goes, where well, I got my squad that's been with me, and you're gonna have to just start at the bottom. It was literally, hey, we have shirts left over. And if I shift even one person, if I shift even one person, I gotta reprint a whole bunch of stuff, and environmentally that doesn't make any sense. So in keeping with our consciousness.
And that's the thing, right? So two things. One, that we actually live by what we're talking about. So we actually walk the talk. We are sustainable. I used to also in the past recycle everything that I have, all my wood and everything. And then also our egos don't run us. So my ego wasn't bruised. I was like 11. You know what? That's exactly where I need to be.
She's comparing it to something.
You're really a father child, huh?
Just more diplomatic.
Much more diplomatic. Because as a young journalist, I remember I went to a press conference one with Roland when he was practicing, and I asked him some questions from the Herald. He didn't like. He called me all kinds of things. Might need call my boss on me, Robin Snow. So I'm like, who is lying thinking he can? I was getting me fired.
I can ask him about it.
But
I was wrong. I was being rude to him.
But this is what I love about Sint Maarten. This is exactly what Sint Maarten is about, what I'm seeing here. And most of the people who probably listen don't know. We have farmer Senator Marcel Gumbs' daughter,
Mhm.
former Minister, Senator Roland Duncan on a political party together.
Yeah.
You imagine that what Sint Maarten still is,
Yes.
that we still have that
Exactly.
Yeah.
togetherness. But
Thank God.
for me, I'm so happy because there was a lot of stigma being played out in our society over the last year.
Yeah.
Create a lot of falseness about Sint Maarten. And I don't want to go deep into the questions again, but this is something that I'm so happy with what I'm seeing and what is taking place.
Yeah.
The true Sint Maarten spirit at the end of the day is what I'm feeling and what is happening. Mike, now we're going into these
I want to
questions
start
now.
with Enya. Because you're a sitting MP,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
I know when that meeting was supposed to be held,
Yes.
and it's a vote is going to come back again because the minister has the question.
Yeah.
The vote has to happen.
Yeah.
You also wrote a quite lengthy article about when the real Richard Gibson stand up.
Yeah.
Because
Senior. The
senior,
right?
yeah. Because he's had some comments, and a
Yeah.
lot of people was on your position as well. People, you not there. You know what's going on?
Yeah.
Where do you stand on this Enya thing? Can you tell us how you're going to vote?
Well,
Is that a surprise? What?
no, I think look, I said before, even before when the previous government was there, that we might have to find ourselves begrudgingly supporting it. Why? Because I recognize that to risk the interest rate of the finance loans going to what it could go to would actually be disastrous. And I think I had some concerns about the governance of the new structure that is being set up, mainly because there's going to be a foundation, so a management foundation, and then with a supervisory board, but the board will only be 4 members, and
Yes.
I always find that a little odd. And I get it; it's the they look at how much responsibilities Curacao have in it, etc. And further on down the line, as the new Enya entities become profitable, they could be sold off to then, decrease what we're going to be responsible for in the end. Fine. But from a governance perspective, I had some questions. And I think part of why I wrote the letter that I did is because I don't like people trying to emotionally fool persons. If you were there, you have to acknowledge your role in how we got here.
Yeah.
And I that is something that agitates me.
We know
I
that,
can
yes.
tell you very much.
Yeah.
It is nothing to say, mistakes were made, but I have a solution that will fix it. I feel right now it's very disingenuous because what is being said by the former Minister of Finance in Mr. Gibson Sr. is I'm trying to find a way out of it so that the heat can kind of come off my back. And I think that's also part of growing, part of building a country is everybody has to be willing to take responsibility for their own actions. If you did it, you gotta sit in it, basically. And for me, Enya is a failure of many persons' decision making. It's a failure of oversight. But I've been stressing on the central bank's lapses in oversight because it's not just Enya now. You had the Hero Bank situation in Curacao. It's always we're gonna kick the fingers for certain things, and then when it hits the fan, everybody is who suffers essentially. But I can't, in good conscience, let 3,000 Sint Maarteners, policy holders, and their families, all of whom are voters. You also have to think about that. Like everybody is coming out very much like no, and absolutely not. I saw somebody, a candidate/journalist, whatever, post, let Enya go bankrupt. And I was like, huh? How could you say such a thing with 3,000 Sint Maarten voters at risk?
Yeah.
You understand? So those are the things that you have. It's I think Minister Patrice Gumbs said you have to balance the tough decisions versus the popular ones. And it may be popular now to beat your chest and say, well, this is not something that I will support because I know commit Sint Maarten to XYZ. But I hope it's also a lesson for us that when we putting people on supervisory boards, when we defending directors, we need to make sure that we defending the right people. Yeah. Because the persons that were involved, that at any time a supervisory board tried to pull them up, they were defended by politicians from right in Sint Maarten.
Yeah.
Let's face facts.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to look ourselves in the mirror. And when people come and try to pull the wool over the country's eyes and act like, well, this is a Curacao company and like it was good enough when you were working for it.
Have you seen any other alternatives? Have you seen any other?
I haven't seen anything on paper. I haven't seen any solution on paper. And to be honest with you, even if someone would come now, I think it's a little late to the party. Curacao has already moved forward. We are operating under deadlines now.
Yeah.
You understand? So
Because
I think
this is a 30 to 50 year
commitment.
debt.
Yeah.
On our people. And the Minister of Finance was in here. She said she is not too sure that all proper homework was done to say we don't have any other options.
Yeah.
So, but that's why I asked if you've seen or
But
heard
that's
any
the thing.
other
We are pending that meeting now to hear about what an alternative could be.
right.
And that remains to be seen. But I think if we're really going to be honest, and again, we're all about honesty, even if it's going to hurt. To be honest, I think it is too late for that.
I must congratulate you for your maturity. I'll be honest with you, because it's not easy for someone to look at it from a holistic point of view and understand the far-reaching consequences that this can seriously have if just a no vote or yes vote goes down. For me, and I like how you looked at what the consequences we could face with those 3,000 individuals, policyholders, and the negative impact it can happen on your society. And I don't think that just a no vote should be looked at.
Yeah.
I do believe the question is, the former minister, did he bring any alternative proposal possibilities before signing to Parliament of what can be done?
Yeah. So what was explained last year, there was a deadline of September 30th to come with a solution. I think something was on the table, from what I recall. Something was on the table, and then Curacao backed out. And I don't think it was too nice as well for us. And then this was the next best solution, because you had the refinancing of the COVID loans coming up, and the interest
Why that's
rate.
involved in it, I have no. It's a different story. Why tie in the?
Which I agree with, and which we voiced to the then State Secretary Ron Fullen our concerns. But I also feel like we've been doing this dance with the Netherlands for so long. Nothing should surprise us anymore.
True.
To be honest, so nothing surprises me. So I was like, I figured, and we move on.
But we heard a former MP said that this is a dance that was going to put on.
Yeah, but
we could go with that, but I don't want to touch that now. But I'm saying I heard that dance that was being played that you're talking about. That government was playing the dance with the Dutch, which was wrong, because we heard a former MP, a former leader of a political party was stating that. And again, that this is the negative impact we are facing.
Yeah. Look, people will try to play politics, will try to do certain dances, whether it's with the Dutch, whether it's whoever, but ultimately this boils down to people's lives. This boils down to people's pension, their ability to support themselves and their families. And at the end of the day, it all boils down to persons working in these companies as well. So I can't just think of, well, this don't feel good to me. Even if it is a society, a community, is everybody has to be responsible for everybody else. That's the reality of it. I can't imagine that if I talk to the average Sint Maartener, they would be not able to put themselves in your policyholder's shoes and say, well, what happened if your whole pension was wiped out?
Yeah.
You understand? We all have to think about that as well. And that's what I think about when I contemplate this pending meeting then. And we asked before last recess, I believe, I asked questions to the then Minister of Finance about the possible solution, who was in the work group, who was in this committee that was working on possible options. But yeah, I whatever has been decided now, where we're at now, it all kind of was kicked down the road a bit, I find, and it took too long. And sometimes in these types of situations, coming from that financial world, like sometimes you do have to press the urgency on things and come a bit quicker with what the options are. And now we find ourselves where it's kind of like up against the wall again.
But the question I have, what are the assets available that Enya still has on their books? With what type of value?
So I guess this is going into Molybdenum.
No, that's just one part of it.
Yeah, and Molybdenum is with Sun Resorts, which is Enya Investments Limited, I think. Something like that. Beyond that, you just have the other companies, Enya Leven, Enya Care, and one other that Enya Schade, I think. But those are the companies that are going to be restructured in this new solution. Once they're restructured, they will operate under that management foundation and the supervisory board that I mentioned. And then, as they get back to profitability, the consideration is in the details that we were shared by the former government to sell them off. Now, my concern that I voiced on the floor of Parliament was this 4-man board is 1 person, Central Bank, 2 Curacao, and 1 Sint Maarten. So but it has to be, so if we don't want to sell or we want to sell, you have to try and find majority somewhere in there to support your decision. You understand? And when I say sell, I mean sell the Enya companies. The Mulla Bay discussion is a Sun Resort discussion. And I agree with the former Minister of Finance that if we want to buy it, that's great, but you have to have a plan. And I also could think of a host of plans that maybe some persons have in the community, but it's also up to us to decide what do we want Mulla Bay to be.
What is space you want Mulla Bay to be?
I would love Mulla Bay to be, to make it clear, we're not against development now, but we prefer sustainable development. Sustainable development, a combination of whatever it can be with providing access to the public to the beach. That for sure cannot be touched because the beach is the country's. And in green spaces, basically, protect those areas that are there. We went to Mangrove Morning, and we did a tour of the lagoon, and that area there by Mulla Bay with the mangroves have been flourishing, and they're trimmed down every now and then or so. But
which place?
In the back, so when you go, you're heading Kukoi by the back of the golf course here.
Oh yeah, you're speaking to the one who saved that.
So those areas, I think, you have to make them off limits, and make sure that you protect the natural beauty of what that area is. Yeah, but keep in mind the sustainability of it, not just for the area of Mulla Bay, but for the rest of the country. Because if you look at the current GB situation, I believe has been voiced, a lot of the strain on the grid before June's fire has been coming from the end of the grid, and the end of the grid is in Kukoi.
Correct. You carry now the political responsibility for GB. The party carries the political responsibility for GB. Is that true? Or the Prime Minister took control?
Well, the Prime Minister basically is
I think the Prime Minister
overall
responsible. Every responsibility.
No.
This administration as well.
This one too. Last administration, we called in the former Minister of Rami, and then I guess when the heat got too hot,
he passed on the
he
ball.
kind of passed on the ball. This time around, the Prime Minister has kind of stepped forward to handle this.
I don't think nothing was handed over. Yesterday was a pretty bad day. In terms of power supply. I don't know if the Minister of Rami, Minister Patrice Gumbs, have updated the party as to why that was. If he has any information with GB. And of course, what's going on with the generators?
We have a meeting tonight, so maybe
we have
a meeting tonight, so we should find out tonight. But I think so. It's 2 things. Yesterday I saw a post about a fuel leak at the power plant. So I think that is what kind of threw everyone out of whack.
Right.
I mean, in Defiance, it was gone from about 6 p.m. till after 11, I believe. I saw other areas reporting, after midnight they got back power. And Colby is so strange because it's so many different patches of the grid that one part of Colby could be on, and then down the road is off, and then down that road is on. So you saw people saying Colby back, but then some say no, it's still off. All at the same time. But so that's one part of it, that fuel leak, which I guess is just no investments in your infrastructure over the last however many years. And then the container generators, I've also asked for an update on that. What I do know from the little bit of education that the electrical engineers in my life have given me is that you have to synchronize the container generators with the grid. If you turn them on and they start vibrating too hard, they could blow the whole thing. And we don't want to take that risk neither. It's not plug and play. It's not the keyboard. It's not a keyboard. It's not webcam. So it's really a delicate process, and I wouldn't want to be in the shoes of the GB workers. So I have to give them their props and their applause and my patience while they work on this issue. But I do think that communication-wise, it could be a bit better. So I always urged to the back channels that I have, please just put something out. I don't like to be that bacchanalist MP, so I'm gonna just try to try and see, hey, can you maybe put something out just to comfort people?
Yeah.
Even for me, like when I get information, I put it in the community chat for Middle Region Defiance, just to kind of put people's minds at ease, because that is all people want.
Yeah.
Because we're stressed.
Yeah.
Everybody's tired.
Very much so.
Very
Yeah,
much so.
yeah.
Question for you guys. On the issue of social development on Sint Maarten, where do you see PFP position on that?
I turn to my
Ooh, social development. Okay, so for one, everything is connected, and I think over the last 50 years, like people have been throwing out years, right? Over a very long time, what we've seen is ministries moving forward as if they're the only ones that have an issue to solve. So I've always talked about, and PFP promotes this interministerial partnership and actual work groups to tackle an issue at its core. When we look at what is happening in Dutch Quarter, it is not only, it's an education issue or an issue where the youth don't have no activities. It's a social issue.
And there goes GB.
we keep going over
Is that
here.
all right? No?
Keep going.
Keep
Go
going.
ahead. We're
Okay.
online, but we're online still.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a social issue. It's a community developed issue. It's an economic issue, because let us be honest, right? When we look at the economics of Sint Maarten and the fact that foreign investors have been allowed to do whatever they want, and we don't see that partnership with making sure that our people are carried along in the profiting, in the capitalism. This is what happens.
Yeah.
You know,
Because we see a district like the Squatter exploding, little mini volcano, big volcano.
Yeah.
What are you as MPs going to do to tackle that? Do you recognize what the causes are, first of all, and what is the PFP going to do to ensure something like that doesn't happen or doesn't happen as often?
So what I keep trying to what we've always championed and what we've always tried to say in Parliament, out of Parliament and such, is that a lot of these issues are able to be solved by providing programs that help persons find their purpose in life, essentially. But those programs require money. And a lot of times you hear, well, government doesn't have money, etc. But we've always advocated that could change if there was more responsible spending of what is, at the end of the day, public money.
Right.
For 4 years, we kept, Farmer MP Peterson, myself, kept asking about this this decree to just regulate tendering, so that this mystery around tendering doesn't continue. Because when stuff like tendering, contracting, procurement has mystery around it, money goes missing.
Yes.
And when money goes missing, that's your money going missing.
Mhm.
And when your money goes missing, you can't put money into a place like Dutch Quarter. You can't put money into a place like Middle Region. I live there.
Right.
You understand? We also have that. That's and when I look at the different the boxes that are around the country, you're just gonna see them start to pop off in sequence. You understand? Because people are frustrated. And now you add inequality in the living situation, the cost of living, all of those frustrations, and now you add the match of being hot in the night. You're hot in the day.
Yeah.
You think you could do this, GB goes off. You think you could do that, GB goes off. You yourself are creating civil unrest.
Exactly.
And I don't like when my colleagues use irresponsible words like we're gonna have a civil war in this country, blah blah blah, and not able to look back and say, well, what role did you play in that?
For it not to happen.
For it not to happen, you understand? What did you do or not do that has brought us to this point? And that's, I think, something that is again part of looking in the mirror and seeing where you want to go with who you are. For us, it's always been on responsible spending, cutting spending where we can. It's gonna be uncomfortable for civil servants, for politicians. But at the end of the day, I said earlier, as well today, leadership is about being uncomfortable so that your people can be comfortable.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Right.
We saw it since 2020. You have persons in this country that don't actually care about whether or not you're uncomfortable. It's about their comfort.
Yeah.
They killed down a motion to cut our salaries in 2020 at the start of the worst economic downturn this country has experienced since Hurricane Irma.
Yeah.
You understand? So I think that alone shows the mentality. And that's, again, this to me is not even a battle of plans. Everybody can have plans. It's a battle of characters.
Yeah. The funny thing, the way people here over the years, we've seen some critics of yours, of the party, when people see you speak like that and talk about proper programs, proper planning, they tend to turn to say, well, all you do is complaining, or oh God, you stoosh. and we don't need that right now. And this man, like, why? How do we get past that line of thinking? I mean, does it ever make you despondent to see not understanding that proper planning prepares you better?
I think that the people are understanding that.
Okay.
You have people that are understanding that. Who tries to discredit that is usually our colleagues, other politicians. And I get it. You're not able to comprehend or even plan for yourself, so you can't plan for a country. And I think that is something that also has to be no, it has to be said, guys. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So because we were called crazy when we said maybe we put a pause on development and try to figure out if GB has the capacity to sustain all of it. I said that in 2021.
Yeah.
And then you find out that GB themselves put it out. The former CEO said things have come online that we never had to deal with before.
Right.
And now here we are load shedding with schools offline.
And coming
online in just a week and change, so turns out I wasn't crazy.
It reminds me of that meme or that gif when you're mopping up the sea, right?
Yeah.
The guy is trying to mop the sea up, right? And the water keep coming. I mean, it's ridiculous. When we talk about programming specifically, let's look at education. The PFP in their manifesto is saying CVQs are where we have to go with vocational education. I have friends that went to vocational school that are at the top of their organizations. But this was 20-something years ago?
Right.
And now the quality of education, and we're not seeing that evaluation taking place, and saying, hey guys, listen, there's a system in the Caribbean that works, that from 6th grade, our young people could say, hey, you know what? I prefer to work with my hands. We need engineers, we need electricians. Like 6-7 years ago, I was at Department of Education, and there was a work group that came together. Of course, nothing happened with it because we were already looking at the shift from what we have now to CVQs. And I went to MPC and I was doing like a little video compilation of all our vocational schools. And there was a girl who wanted to be an electrician. And I was so excited because I was like, yes, I'm all about that. And, honestly, recently I heard that she is not an electrician, that she is doing something. I'm not going to say what.
Right. Yeah.
But and so in my mind, I'm seeing this little girl from 7 years ago who is now in some job that she doesn't want to be because the education system failed her. And we are failing our kids. And that's one of the big things that needs to happen. And PSC is very clear on where to go with vocational education.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, for me, this is why I continue to have a big voice. Because when we look over the years, and it's not about blaming anyone.
Yeah.
When we look at our system that we have today, and we see the huge import of labor and the different sectors and the different fields, and when we look at our educational system, that what you are talking about, we see the big gap and the big failure. It's unfortunate that a young person who you spoke to wanted to be an electrician, but because of how the system failed him, and so many, is the problem we face today.
Yeah.
The question I have for both of you, when we look at NEPA, in many Caribbean countries, you get free education. Do you ever see Sint Maarten providing that free education for young people who wants to train to become something, be a possibility? Because look, I've seen a lot of young kids over the years that have been in politics, been around in business, doing things. They have always approached you to help them pay their school fee. That should never be in your community, to get an education that people are begging people, are asking people to pay for them to get an education the way that is happening in Sint Maarten.
France, not to cut you off, but we at a point now where you have teachers that need persons to help them get school supplies.
Classroom ready.
And that has been brewing since I was getting ready to leave high school, and this is quite a while ago. But I think that it's bad all around. When you have to pay for a school fee or you have to pay for school supplies, you're entering into a territory that I'm sorry, that's not the way that a developed place is supposed to be behaving. In terms of free education, somebody always pays on the back end. I always tell you,
of course,
somebody pays on the back end.
Pay.
Yep. And I think too, what I
Because
also,
wait, not cut you
yeah,
out,
no worries, no worries.
because remember, if we take care of those kids
Yeah,
to get them to become electrician, carpenters, masons, and stuff like that, they goes back into society and works
Yeah.
and pay taxes
Yeah.
for the next generation to come.
exactly. And I think too, what I also wanted to say is that we as in all of us also have to instill some pride back into those vocational practices.
Of course.
Yeah.
Not gonna
Of
lie,
course.
the goal that has always been pumped into everybody's brain, you gotta get a good job, as if being a carpenter is
It's
not
a bad job.
Right?
So
Right.
what I saw from private sector when I was working at UTS, most of the time, persons just want to be able to be in an office.
Yeah.
You know,
An office job.
I want office job. They don't want to learn how to be a technician. They don't want to learn how to, work with fiber, work with wiring, etc. Like it's not looked at as a good job. And I think that starts with educators first of all. And even if we look at our teachers, whether it's teachers in the public schools or in the other schools, the subsidized schools, and also parents, they also have a role to play in that. I've heard the comments from going to school again back when I was in school of you got to study hard because you want to grow up and be walking on the side of the road. Maybe I do because the people blowing the fiber getting paid more
Exactly.
than I was getting paid in my
Good
job.
job.
Yeah, basically more than you. So I
Yeah.
think that is also something that sense of pride that the
Mhm.
other islands have, where
That we are lacking now.
That we lack now. Yeah, I remember.
Maybe because it was we imported so much of foreign labor. in
Yeah,
these
I think
positions
so
that
because
created that problem.
yeah, and that goes into a whole different social discussion because then why do we see that foreign labor as lesser than? Why do we see them as less than us?
Mhm.
Because they are plumber. Listen, when I lived in Holland, there was a very timely at the time and still timely now news article that basically said, translated from Dutch, so many lawyers, not a plumber to be found.
Mm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it literally spoke about how even in the Netherlands, what you're seeing is my next door neighbor was the plumber, but he was Polish.
Right.
Had an engineering degree,
Right.
but was also a plumber by trade. And because he couldn't get a job in engineering because he was from Poland and some qualifications, he was just being a plumber. And I said to him, didn't you ever try again to get into engineering? He's like, I make so much money.
Plumbing.
Exactly.
Plumbing? I don't have to.
So you know what it is though? It's just the narratives that should be
Yeah.
created by the government, our leaders aren't being created.
Right.
So what are our people aspiring to be? If you ain't telling them, listen, this is the type of citizen that you need to be by the time that you're 18, you ain't saying nothing.
Yeah.
You're not changing our curriculums,
Yeah.
you're not teaching our people where we come from. So who do you expect them to be?
Don't get us started on heritage.
Yeah, don't get me.
But you know, one of the things in this conversation is very interesting, and I'm going to bring it up here. The generation of my generation, I have always looked at our generation as the last generation that really had the access to that type of trade
Mhm.
and opportunity on
Yeah.
Sint Maarten. And when you look at those individuals today, and I could go down the name up a number of them, who they are,
Yeah.
what they have accomplished, what they are in Sint Maarten, based of going through that same trade school
Mhm.
today.
Yeah.
And I understand now in the sentiments what is happening on Sint Maarten.
Mm.
But if we take those individuals, and I'll take one, your minister father,
Yeah.
you understand?
Yeah.
Your minister
Yeah.
father
Yeah.
went through that same system that I went through
Yep.
in Milton Peters at the time.
Mhm.
Look at him today,
Exactly.
Patrice Gumbs Sr.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Look at his uncle, Guy Gumbs.
Yeah.
And I could go bamboo. We could go down the line
Down
of
the line,
all
yeah.
these
Mhm.
individuals who went to trade school.
Yeah.
Even my
And
peers.
today,
Yeah.
yes, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Look at it.
Yeah.
So for me, how is it that we have failed the other generations?
Yeah.
Because others always use a house analogy. Especially in St. Martin, some of us love really big houses, right?
Yeah.
But you know how much money it takes to maintain those
Yeah,
houses,
yeah.
right? And then after a while, 30 years pass, you're like, oh crap, I got like huge cracks in the wall that I didn't fix. I brought in maybe, I don't know, I I painted the wall on the inside, but on the outside I didn't fix those cracks. So we haven't evaluated all of these systems that we
Yeah.
just took from the Netherlands
Mhm.
and didn't really say, hey, listen, this works for us, this doesn't work for us. And that's where we're in the state now. And what is so interesting is that Saba and Stacia turned best actually stopped Dutch education over there. and
Yeah.
took on CXC,
Yeah,
English
okay,
Caribbean,
that's
for
right.
education,
Just
you
send the
know.
money to the guy.
Yeah. And we're still here 15 years now, like, oh God, well, how did it go so wrong? You know, and we've neglected not only our youth, our teachers. And that's why I said earlier, it is a mix of all of these issues, social issues, education, justice, security, housing is another crisis. And if we don't come together and every minister working together, we can't get out of this.
Yeah.
Melissa, how was as a leader of a political party, in a coalition, government just fell, etc., etc. I'm sure the party had its plans, its goal, etc. In terms of like your approach to governing, how is what has happened lately, all this confusion, how is it informed? Has it changed it? What can people expect for the PFP in terms of the government based on what's happening now?
Yeah.
Explain that to us.
I wouldn't say that it's changed it. You know, I think again with the upbringing and what I was surrounded by growing up, and also seeing how, you know, how the arena itself has changed from the days of my father, from the days of even France. It has changed drastically. I think.
Not long ago.
No, it's not that long ago. But it's changed so wildly. It feels like it was that long ago.
Yeah.
You know, it has definitely changed so widely that it feels like it was long ago. So I think we kind of knew you know, the risks, the pros, the cons of governing, but we've always committed to just bringing our style and our approach to it no matter what.
Right.
And I think that when I look at what the minister and his team has been doing, it is exactly that. It's also restoring power and empowering the departments, because a lot of things were taken away from them. We discovered early on. And I think that is also part of it, right? You cannot just be there and say like Mila said, you know, I don't have nothing else to do with it. Like, you have to be willing to take on the criticism, to take on advice from persons that may not know, that may know better, and even those that may just have an idea. And I think that's the benefit I see of how we operate in terms of communication. And I think I believe, you know, the minister has done a great job at outlining what his plans are, saying, you know, there are still small things that can be done in this caretaker status, because that is what it is. Caretaker status simply means to take care. It doesn't mean you stop doing work.
Right.
It means the work continues, and you have to make sure that it continues in a way that even when you have left, it continues properly.
Right.
And that's those are the steps that I know that are being taken now in the ministry. And that would be our approach to governance in any scenario, whether it's 4 years, whether it's a year, 17 days, you know, whatever. So I think it hasn't changed us. It's just meant, so the characters really are all the Muppets, and we just have to, you know, be better.
What is good, not necessarily good, but critical, is that with PFP, maybe not Melissa per se, but Patrice, Minister Gumbs was a civil servant. I was a civil servant. Ray was a civil servant. So we know exactly what the environment feels like, and I can say that it's become so toxic over the last 4 years. Nobody don't talk about that. So civil servants don't want to show up. When they're there, I mean, the energy that they have to deal with, it's alarming. So a minister is not only coming in to create policy, but you got to get this environment at a higher level, to a space where everybody feels good to do the work for the people.
Well, at least, you know, she said something that we wasn't hearing and saying for many years, for the last 4 years, about what was happening in the civil servant hierarchy. As a former civil, or still a civil servant, at least now what you are saying is what we've been saying for the last 4 years, how civil servants have felt coming to work in their environment that they're in. The question for me now, what are the 5 things that PFP would want to accomplish in the next 4 years if opportunity is given again for you guys to be in office?
In office.
In the executive branch, not in parliament. In the executive branch.
In the executive branch, it remains, the same manifesto that we used last campaign, but our priorities have always been improving public spending, regulating it, like I mentioned with the tendering, establishing the road fund so that road tax can be allocated to it, establishing a Sint Maarten tourism authority that is independent of government, that is a result of public-private partnerships with the hospitality sector also has a role to play. It's not just a board of civil servants, because I think that's a little bit redundant. That was 3 things. Yeah. An assessment of foundation-based education, where we are at, what is actually needed to move it forward.
Yeah.
And the last thing, of course, was protecting environmental protections to make sure that from an infrastructural perspective, we are actually maintaining. We are also protecting environmental spots, making as many green spaces as possible. There's something that we've even talked about recently. If you look at how things are going in terms of climate change and such, we have to start taking some serious decisions in the country to protect against what may come.
Right.
We dodged a bullet with Debbie, what became Debbie, but the peak of the season, we're not that close to my birthday yet. So the closer we get, the worse it's going to be.
Exactly.
And we have to start looking forward, not just at the next 4 years, but the next 10, the next 20. For us, ideally, it would be a dream of mine and personally to see that we have that 4-year term. And in that term, there can be an independent committee or body set up. And their task is to write Sint Maarten 30 years down the line plan. And it may sound a little wild, but when I hear even Sint Maarteners talk about how planning and development goes in the Netherlands, I say, yeah, because someone wrote a plan 30 years ago. When students were saying Rotterdam Centrale under construction, etc., that wasn't a whim decision. That was something that was written in the 80s. Plan for Rotterdam. The Hague Central, the same thing. You understand? So we have to start thinking along those lines, and those are some of the priority areas. But we've always maintained, if you don't fix the money, nothing else is going to get fixed.
Does the party still have its 5 or 6, or I can't remember how many absolute things that coalition partners would have to agree to?
There was 3 deal breakers.
There was 3 deal breakers.
Yeah. There was 3 of them.
I don't know why it seemed like it was so much.
I was like,
I don't know why it seemed like it was so much.
there were 5 sections to the manifesto.
Yes.
There were
Do you
5
still have
sections.
these 3 deal breakers for going
yes.
to a coalition?
Yeah, and to be honest, I hope that one of them might be realized before this government is shifted,
right?
Which is the decree on tendering.
Yes.
To kind of regulate how that is handled. The last will remain the most important, which is that you operate from a point of integrity and ethical decision making.
Yeah.
That's it. Internally, we plan to hold anybody accountable, and I think if you ever have a behind the scenes conversation with any of the other ministers, they will tell you that we stuck to that.
Right.
If there's something happened, we're like, but why did you decide this? And just to know. Again, you don't have to be a back analyst each and every time to get your point across. You could just ask a question. So definitely those are still what we're going to be sticking to improve then how public money is spent and to dedicate time to assessing how did we, where we are right now and how do we move forward and making sure that, it really gets down to what matters, which is it shouldn't matter who's in the seat. The work just has to continue.
Exactly. I was going to make a point you might want to look into, Melissa. Here a lot of people keep talking about the establishment of the SDA. Now, the SDA was established by former Minister Duncan. I was the last person representing a minister on the SDA. And I just don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't know why everybody keeps talking about it was never established. It was firmly, fully established. The money wasn't there.
Yes.
Yeah, but the organization, the basis of it is there.
Yeah. So one of the things that I was when I used to work at Sint Maarten, this was a conversation we had frequently. I had with my former boss Bernard Hunt, and his dream, and through examining it, listening to him, talking to others, as well as in Aruba, was always to see it kind of done in that way, where it was because look, I think a lot of times we want to set something up, but then you have politicians that kind of want to hold on to it. Yeah. You need to have the control. Yeah. No. Leadership is about empowering people to be able to lead the thing forward for you, and that is the basis of public-private partnership. It's not that government has to be the be-all, end-all. Is that you recognize that the hospitality private sector has a lot of knowledge, they have a lot of know-how, and they have to also kind of be involved in letting that run forward. Right. I have my issues with that STA, which was predominantly that I just saw that you're picking civil servants and putting them in it on the board or so. And to me, what that says is you are also removing now capacity from their regular job, from the organization. And we can't stand to do that again. Right. So I think if that it is there, yes, maybe a revamp then is the better word to use. Yeah. For sure. And then to make sure that it can be independent and that it is the money is there, because in my opinion, and I hope they would agree with me if they're listening, I believe that such an entity, some funding has to come from the harbor and the airport.
Absolutely.
So yeah, so I think
Yeah.
Mhm.
but they also might feel more comfortable if there is more private sector involvement in that sense, you know. So
Yeah.
just again looking at Chatham, which is Curacao, looking at Atta, which is Aruba,
Aruba.
and
Mhm.
seeing also the Bahamas and Bermuda,
Yeah.
and how, because traveling for Maho to different market shows,
Mhm.
those are the type of feedback that I got from those islands to see how something like this could be set up, even though I had no plan to go into
But the
politics back then.
question is, Melissa, does civil servants, and I'm saying civil servants, understand the true meaning of that ST? What was the reasoning for it? Because I think a lot of people don't understand the reasoning why the ST has to be established,
Yeah,
and more so that the private sector to be part of it, because people need to understand that on a daily basis, economies and countries and things happen, shocks are happening.
yeah,
And if we don't react fast enough to these shocks,
Yeah.
to put the money where it needs to go, we have a problem at
Yeah.
Sint Maarten.
I don't
Because
know.
that was one of the most important reasons for the ST, because you see, the bureaucracy to get money
Yeah,
to flow from government to the ST was taking too long to react to whatever
For sure.
happening in the world out there.
for sure.
And I think
Yeah.
that was the key for the ST,
Yeah,
that
sure.
decisions are made immediately.
yeah,
That if, let's say, if there's a big event or something happening, a possibility for marketing at a cheap rate
Yeah.
in New York,
You be able to
ST would
pivot.
make that
Yeah.
decision right away. It would
Yeah,
happen.
yeah, exactly. And that I think too is where the independence of it ties in.
Yes.
Which is why, you know, for like I said, from my own experience, be working in hospitality, meeting these other ministers of tourism and learning about how their authorities were set up and how they work and where they get their money from and such, even to a point where I think is it Atta or Chatter, where it's almost like self-sustained. You can book via their website even, and they get a percentage of whatever you've booked. And that is, of course, should be the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
But you need that independence, I think,
Mhm.
to be able to get that organization running as it's meant to. Whether or not it was explained properly back then to civil servants so that they understood the intention, I'm not sure. I wasn't there.
But I think that it was not only necessarily the civil servants,
Yeah,
but it was certain people in authority
Hmm.
who didn't want to give it up.
Yeah.
Is what I felt it was, because this didn't start today. It started since commissioner days. That this
you could tell me
process-
off the air who that was.
Yeah.
Tell me off the air who that was. Name
that,
names
that
and I'll
this
whistle.
process would have started and would have grew up.
Yeah,
Unfortunate that we are still here now.
still here. Yeah.
And I think that is one of the problems I have a problem with Sint Maarten, that we have brilliant ideas, great
Execution.
initiative, but the
The
execution
execution. Yeah.
of these things
Mhm.
takes too long
Yeah.
to happen.
You know, after me myself take responsibility for myself, and you guys said it, you know, I'm diplomatic by nature, but I realized that I was too diplomatic, and that's why I said I've taken on this new philosophy, right? And Melissa said it to me. I remember that first interview where Melissa was like, "Listen, no more Mrs. Nice Girl," because everything falling apart in this country. So they
Yes,
started, and my father
exactly.
says gentle parenting. They
Yeah,
started,
exactly.
oh, we can't. This
She's
is
right,
it.
she's
This
right.
is it now. So we're ready.
Yeah.
We're back. Shakari said she's not back. She's better.
Yeah.
It's not a joke anymore, because
Yeah.
we can't continue laissez-faire. We can't. Yeah.
But, you have two parties running, Melissa, in this election: the National Alliance and the Up Party. Who are asking the people again for a chance and to get them back into whatever. And you're a political opponent of theirs. You're running against them. Do they qualify? In your opinion, so if you have your opinion, do they deserve?
Some of them.
Okay, a second chance to run this country.
Some of them. Look.
I'm a good diplomat now.
Yeah. I know how Frank would ask. I know how he would ask.
France, absolutely.
You know it? Oh, yeah.
I know it. I listen to those family meetings just to hear about it. Absolutely not. I think. Look. I have said to their faces, because that's one thing about me. I will tell them direct. This is the issue that I have, and I've said it publicly as well. I do believe that there's still, even in the young ones, a lot of old school politics of this respectability politics, you know. But I think that brutal, like Radical honesty with the population is the only way that you're going to move the country forward.
Right.
This sugar-coating of things to make it look brighter than it is, a pig in lipstick is still a pig. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And I believe, that I've said that enough that they know what they would get if ever they were the constellation where we were in a government together. The reality is, you can never say never. Well, I've only said that to one party so far. And you can never say never, but I think there are definitely some self-reflection that they have to do within themselves to also be able to evolve as politicians and as leaders. Again, leadership is not, stability only when you're in the seat. And that, I think, has been the thing that sticks in my craw, as my grandmother would say, about how we've gotten to this snap election, and I've said it on the radio since the day after. You had 4 years of stable government. I've always said at what cost, you could be stable in the ICU, still in the ICU. But that stability was granted to you by this party.
Yeah.
By this party, ignoring the phone calls, ignoring the people, knocking on our doors, saying, hey, this government gotta go. And we got to think, and PFP got to change this and shit, to go so far as to call my father, who everybody knows as soon as he start, I'll hang up the phone. Like, that's not a avenue that you can take, and to go as far as that, to try and get us to, and we recognized, former MP Peterson and I, that we may not like many of the decisions. We may not like, the direction some things are going, but we have a role to play in that as well from Parliament.
Right.
And that's not to break it, because I don't believe that at the time we were ready to form it. And who break government got ready to form government. You understand? So I think we gave that professional courtesy then of just going the route of motions of disapproval. We didn't like what happened with that whole over the bank situation, Minister Vrami. So we give you the chance to fix it instead of sending you home one time, as is the norm in this country. Asking our questions, putting the pressure on in Parliament. And the minute things stop being nice, you could see the shift as well. And that's the thing. Like, you have, if you're about, when we talk about accountability, we're about it.
Right.
People have said, I didn't like what you did this in Parliament. And I'm like, I understand that. And then you have to self-reflect and say, well, how can I do better in the future? And it takes humility. And I don't know if that is in all of them. Yeah. Because let me tell you, if we had been in government for 4 years, 5 ministers or 4 ministers or 2 in a council of ministers, and after 4 years, lose over 1,000 votes in an election, I would have questions for myself.
For yourself.
Yeah, exactly. I would have questions for myself. Yeah. I would literally, I would, and everybody could have been like, oh, but we still got 3-4 seats. I don't care. Yeah. We could have gotten 6. What happened, guys?
You regret.
What happened? Like, that would have been my question to myself. Yeah. And I think it's too much of a cop-out to say, well, you had new parties in the field or whatever. No. Yeah. If you've done the great job that you believe you've done, you'll see the results, I believe. And I think that for us, we grew in vote count. Yeah. And so we set out to do politics differently, hold the government accountable, communicate with the people. Yeah. And we accomplished that. And now we're waiting to accomplish more.
I have one question, my final question because time is run out. The issue of screening of ministers, where do PFP see themselves fixing this issue? Because you guys went through the issue of it. How do you see yourself fixing this issue going forward?
Well, we've always advocated for a screening law. I think a discussion on screening and a screening law was one of the first meetings in Parliament that we had before COVID put us into virtual meetings. And I remember very much explaining that, because the comparison is always, well, in Holland, they don't screen or whatever. Yeah, but in Holland, the party does a screening basically.
Right.
And they have tools available to them where they can get your police record and they can ask for you to have a background check done on you. They comb through your life and such before you even get to the point of, so what number we gonna put you on the list?
Yep.
And I think that we try to screen as much as possible beforehand. I joked with Mila that from the moment she went independent, that's when her screening started.
No, you don't. I like that one. One night.
Thank you.
So so I think that that is how we try to operate. Of course, without the tools, I can't just say, hey, I want to do a background check.
Yeah.
But definitely the parties do that in other places. But at the moment we said you need to have a screening law in place. And it's funny to me too that you had stable for 4 years, but no attempt at fixing that issue came about.
Yeah.
And it's funny, not because they had issues with screening in 2020 when they were putting in the government, but because you spent from 2020 until the end screaming about decolonization and such, and then you didn't put a law in place to stop a colonial body, even though represented by a local face, from being able to interfere in your screening process.
Yeah, screening process.
So again, it's about talking the talk and walking the walk, as they say. That's a good man slogan. The other one.
Yeah.
So I think that is something we've always said. It. The issue is that, of course, many have said take care of Rousseau's law and copy paste, but that would require a change of our constitution, because the constitution already regulates when a conviction actually does impact a minister, and that's after you've become a minister.
Right.
That's Article 36, I believe. Yeah. So
in case you just joined us, we're in discussion with two members, with a leader and a candidate. Well, the leader is a candidate still. Members of the Party for Progress, PFP, the gold standard, the gold party. Contesting the upcoming elections. I'm going to give each the final word. Thanks for putting up with our lack of lighting here for today.
No worries.
We're all yes, we're still there.
Still on, but
we're still
it's
online,
hot.
and but we doing its regular duty.
Yes.
I was out with the former MP, hopefully future MP runs again.
Again, right? It was like a quick hiatus. A quick hiatus. But thank you so much. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for listening in. There's every time I drive on the road, I see the digital board for vote buying, or I hear somebody say they're not going to get up to vote, and those are two very different things, right? I am asking you to go out there and vote, not only because it is your right, but because if you are really, really tired of everything that is happening, then you have to put your trust in people who I believe right now are showing you that they want to take this country in a new direction. And so I am candidate number 11, Solange Ludmila Duncan, on the Party for Progress, former MP, former policy advisor in government, ready to work even harder for you and to make sure that not only you, but your children are looked after in this country.
Thank you very much, MP. Good luck to you. MP Gumbs.
Yeah, I think Mila said it all, but most definitely to everyone, I know that the frustration is there. I always say it, I always end off with this, but the frustration cannot hold you back, because that means that we're holding the country back. So on August 19th, you go out, there were the 8th list on the ballot. So you scroll down, you stop, and you see the gold slate in the face, and you cast your vote. It's a list of 12 persons that are committed to bringing Sint Maarten forward in an ethical, responsible manner. Of course, being honest with you, even when the truth hurts, because sometimes it does, but you need to know the truth so that you can make informed decisions and informed planning for your life.
Right.
And so I'm urging everyone to go out to vote. If you need a ride, you hit us up and we'll come get you, and we will take you there.
You guys are a public gathering, not meeting, but any kind of. I know you guys do smaller events.
This Saturday we are in Etielage Road, actually.
Yes.
The home of our candidate number 8, Rosalinda Martina. So we will be in that area as well, meeting persons and just talking. I think that the formal, we've never done the rally thing. And I think this trying to just go back and we're all tired. So I want people to know, we're tired with you.
Yeah.
So just come out, have a chat with us. It'll be very informal, no sit down kind of thing. But it has been great turnout so far, and I'm enjoying the meetings with the community.
Folks, thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Good luck on the campaign trail.
Thank you.
We hopefully you guys finally acquire that third seat.
Yes.
And more, but good luck, stay hydrated, and let's get our people to a better place, shall we?
Yes,
Keep it locked to 88.3 FM. We'll be right back.